Hello everybody and welcome back. I am Teresa and today we are going to be potting some orchids that are in dire need of a repot. And what you see here in front is a gift that a friend dropped off yesterday. Christy, one of the girls that I volunteer with at it'sallaboutthekids.org. They provide food for over 600 families in the San Diego County area, which is awesome. And when I get off work early enough, I get to volunteer once in a while. I just wanted to show you, she had a tree and she bought some nice pieces of bark and an orchid pot, which I thought was very sweet of her. And thank you, Christy. Alright guys, so today we're going to be working with these 4 orchids. Like I mentioned, they are in dire need of a repot, and that's exactly what I'm going to do today. Just wanted to bring you guys along so that you guys can see how I do it. Maybe if you see that I'm doing something wrong, do please correct me. But this is how I normally repot all of my orchids. Let's get started. So I'm going to start with the Diakia Hendersonian Hawaii. It's the one I received in my Carmela's box, and if you remember, it came in this little cute mount, which it was very adorable, right? But it's just not convenient to have it on this mount. I would have to water constantly, and I can't water these every day. The ones that I have out on my tree, they do well there because most of them are in the bottles, which have a water reservoir. And the 3 that I do have mounted, my mom does spray them every day, but you know, it's not something that I want to be doing every day. Then we're going to work with this phal here. I also have another phal. It was a beautiful pink flower. My mom had this in her room, and as you can see, it's in need of some love. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to repot it and treat it because I don't know if this is some type of fungus on the leaves or what, but look at that. They're all falling off. So we're going to take care of that, and then I'm also going to repot the Maxillary Tenafolia that I received not long ago. I pulled it out of the pot so I can keep it hydrated. It does like being moist, so I'm trying to do that, but it's time I pot it. I have these 2-inch pots for the Diakia Hendersonian, and from what I've done my research, a lot of people tend to pot this orchid in little pots like this, and I have to admit, I love how it looks better on the pot, especially when it's in bloom, than mounted. So that's what I'm going to go for. I got home a few days ago early enough to where I did this, the temporary repot, but yeah, I'm going to actually transfer it to something a bit larger because I do have a few growing roots. I don't remember I've mentioned this, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe these are 2 spikes. Like I said, I'm not quite sure because I've never owned this orchid before, but I'm pretty convinced they're spiked, so I'm excited about that. And I do see 1 or 2 new growths there. So I have some sphagnum moss here, and I have some bark soaking. And that's exactly what I'm going to use. I have my shears or clippers. I'm not sure what everybody calls them. Alright, so I've cleaned my shears. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out. One of my viewers, Nicole, she mentioned that she actually received the same orchid in one of the boxes that she received, and that she had it mounted, right? To do with it, or at least how to, you know, whether she wanted to keep it potted or mounted. And she mentioned that after she saw my video, she was motivated, and she actually potted hers too, so that's awesome. I'm hoping that she keeps me updated, and I will definitely keep you guys updated. You guys know how it goes. I do hope that this is the right choice for this orchid. Like I mentioned, I've never owned it. I read that it likes being, or it likes moisture, but it does not like being completely soaked. It's a little hard to pot it because it's so tiny. Look at the little roots, right? I see why people would want to keep this mounted, because it's not one like I don't know if it's because it's tiny. It looks like it might be a seedling, but then I'm not sure because from what I understand, these are like miniature orchids. I might be wrong, but I mean, that's what I've read. And yeah, I just hope this is the right decision, you guys. So I'm gonna spray a little bit with hydroperoxide. And meanwhile, I'm gonna let it sit there for a bit while I try to figure out how to do this. It was a lot easier 2 days ago. Ooh, it started foaming up there. Can you see that? Well, I mean, I did just clip off a root. It says to me that there was more than one exposed area. Well, there might have been snails there. I'm glad I decided to spray it after all. I was not going to do it. I was just going to pot it. Let me take you guys in there. Can you see that? That's a little bit, but I definitely hear it. I'm going to let it sit there while I try to figure this out, hoping that it does good. But for now, I'm going to do those two. I'm going to spray the roots just a tiny bit. I don't want to shock this orchid. It's already been through enough. Alright, I'm going to try to center it. Hopefully it stays. I think it was easier 2 days ago because it was just spec moss, and the moss, I find it easier. So it's looking pretty good. I'm just going to keep adding some more bark. I'm not gonna lie, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I definitely prefer the clay pots. Recently I've had to shift from clay pots to plastic pots, the transparent pots. But oh, I love the clay pots, and especially, I don't know if you've noticed, I have a lot of them that are just black. Those are actually clay pots that I painted black. Okay guys, so as you can see, this is what the orchid looks like now, potted, and I've put the tag in there. And look how pretty those spikes are. I definitely like it much better on a pot than mounted. So we're gonna move on to this orchid here, and you guys have seen it multiple times on different videos. It was an orchid that was very dehydrated. I didn't think it was gonna make it. It was completely rootless. So not only do I have roots, but I have a basil keiki here, and I have a second basil keiki right here. I hope you guys can see that. So I'm very excited. So I've been babying this orchid, right, for almost a year, and the reason why I want to actually move it from the old media where I was doing so well is because just 2 days ago, when I was going around my greenhouse and inspecting it, I realized that, I don't know what it is, but I started seeing a buildup of tiny little red dots all throughout the stem and the roots. And there's not much left, but a tiny bit there. Let me see if I can take you guys in. I'm not sure if you guys can actually see that. It's not as bad anymore. I did spray it with hydroperoxide. I want to make sure it survives. Time that I repot it in a pot where I want to make sure it does well, and you know, and I don't want to run the risk of having some type of infection on this orchid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pot it with a mixture of moss and bark. But I want to make sure that the basil keikis are above the media. Because I don't want to rot them. Standard orchid mixture, bark and moss. And I got to admit, I was afraid of moss for the longest time because I didn't know how to use it when I started, and I would just overwater it, and at the end I would end up with a very mushy orchid that would just end up dying. And now that I know how to use it and how to properly water it, it is amazing. I use moss for all my orchids, especially now with the heat with summer, you know, being here. Alright guys, so that is what it looks like. As you can see, the basil keikis are above the media, and I'm going to set it, now that it's ready, I'm going to set it in front of my fan for a good 15 minutes. I want to make sure that I don't cause a crown rot on either of the basil keikis or the mom plant. So next one up is the Maxillera tedifolia, and I was debating whether I actually wanted to pot this one with the other orchid that I have, with the other Maxillera, and just let it grow and create a huge orchid, a huge plant. But no, I'm not going to do that. I decided that I'm just going to keep 2 plants, give one to my sister. She's into gardening. She's been doing really good in the garden. So maybe, oh, look at that, a root. Maybe if I get her into orchids, she might find it as relaxing as gardening, which it is, but who knows, right? I'm sure she'll love the smell of coconut. It has some good roots. I've been, like I mentioned, I've been keeping it very moist, and you can see the plug where the seedling was put in. But yes, I see very good root. That's a good sign. I was debating whether I wanted just to stick it into a new pot and add more moss, or actually remove the old moss. But I opted for removing the old moss, as you can see, because I want this new setup to last a good 2-3 years. That's the reason why I'm doing it. And this is pretty neat though, because I did not know this until not that long ago, when I started doing my research on this first when I first received my first Maxillera. You see how these grow? So I learned this not that long ago. I started doing my research when I first received my first Maxillera. I'm sure most of you guys already know this, but I didn't, which I found very interesting. So as you can see, they have a climbing pattern, right? So they're not like any other oncidiums or any orchid with pseudobulbs, where, you know, they'll grow from a rhizome and they'll be low enough, right? These actually climb, and as you can see, this right here is a new. This was the first. I'm assuming this was the first bulb, and then it developed these other ones here, and as you can see, there's a flower that, you know, sprouted from there, and then this right here, let's see if I can get it in there, this right here is a new growth, which eventually, if I take good care of it, will give me another pseudobulb like this, right? But as they're growing, this part right here, it looks dry. Well, that's where the roots actually grow. Not grow, but they will kind of funnel down all the way to the bottom. And as I'm removing the moss, I can actually see clearly how the roots, and I hope you can see that too, how the roots are coming out of this part right here. And I don't know what you would call it, but I'm thinking this is like the rhizome. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. Like I had mentioned when I started this channel, I wanted to create a platform where I can learn from you guys, and hopefully eventually you guys might be able to learn something from me. So please, if you ever see me doing anything wrong, or you might have a better idea or a better way to care for these orchids, do let me know. I will definitely take it in consideration, and I will let you guys know what I opted to do. But my plan here, my goal here, is to grow these orchids to mature size and be able to enjoy the blooms and share that with you guys. So, alright. Hope I'm not boring you guys, but I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this part. I'll show you guys what it looks like towards the end. Alright you guys, so this is what it looks like, all nice and clean. Of course I sprayed it with some hydroperoxide. So these flowers are pretty faded now, so they still smell delicious, so I want to keep them just because they still smell good, because then I'm also tempted to just cut them off. I'm going to leave them for just a few more days. I'm going to enjoy the smell of coconut, and I will be using this pot here. I think it's a perfect size. I potted the first one I received in a similar size pot. So I have my media here. I'm going to start off with my moss. Small layer of bark. Alright. Perfect. It sits perfectly there. As I'm potting this, I'm going to use some of the slow release fertilizer. It's good for 6 months. Normally I would add it at the beginning of spring, but I did just receive this orchid, so it's fine. I still do fertilize every 2 weeks, and then I use a bloom booster when my orchids are in spike once a month. So, or when I see the first spike, that's when I start using a bloom booster. But this one already, I'm not quite sure on what the blooming habits are, but I doubt that this is going to bloom this year again. Most likely it will bloom again until next spring. But I'm not quite sure. I got to do some more research. As you can see, I'm only adding quite a few. I'm not adding that much slow release fertilizer. I want to show you guys something. I just pulled a bee from the ground, and Emma was just trying to kill a bee that she found on the ground. Last time she did that, she got stung on the nose, so I'm trying to distract her, and I just went and pulled a bee off the ground, and she's gonna eat it now. Emma, is it delicious? The next one up is this fowl. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to clean it up, cut the spike. So I'm just going to quickly do it. I'll show you guys what it looks like at the end. After I've removed all the moss and washed it. So as you can see, I'm going to have to treat it with some hydroperoxide. Possibly even a little bit of Clorox. There's some mold growing there, and the roots are just, they're pretty bad. I'll see you guys at the end after I've cleaned it and I show you guys what's left.